Imagine a world where charm and brutality walk hand in hand, where the glitz of Hollywood meets the grit of the underworld. Welcome to the story of Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, a man who dared to dream big in a world of shadows. From the mean streets of Brooklyn to the neon lights of Las Vegas, Siegel's life was a high-stakes gamble that would forever change the face of America. Join us as we unravel the tale of a visionary gangster who built an empire on blood and sand, only to see it crumble in a hail of bullets. This is the story of Bugsy Siegel, the man who made the desert bloom with vice and fortune. This introduction sets the tone for Siegel's complex life, touching on his rise from Brooklyn, his involvement in Hollywood, and his pivotal role in developing Las Vegas. It also hints at his violent end, creating intrigue and encouraging viewers to watch the full video to learn more about this fascinating figure in American criminal history. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Legend. From Brooklyn to the underworld. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel's story began in the gritty streets of Brooklyn, where the son of Jewish immigrants would forge a legacy that would captivate the American public for generations to come. Born in 1906, Siegel's early life was marked by poverty, violence, and the lure of the criminal underworld, a foundation that would shape his ruthless ambition and complex duality as both a vicious gangster and a charming visionary. Siegel's parents, Max and Jenny, had fled the pogroms of the Russian Empire, seeking a better life in the land of opportunity. They settled in the crowded tenements of Brooklyn, where their son Benjamin would grow up surrounded by the harsh realities of urban immigrant life. The Siegel household was a modest one, with Max working long hours as a carpenter to provide for his family. Young Bugsy, as he would come to be known, quickly learned the value of street smarts and self-preservation in a neighborhood rife with petty crime and gang activity. As Siegel navigated the challenges of his childhood, he found himself drawn to the power and prestige associated with the growing criminal enterprises that were taking root in New York City. It was during this formative period that he crossed paths with a fellow Jewish immigrant, Lansky, who would become Siegel's lifelong partner in crime. The two young men, both possessing a keen intellect and an unwavering ambition, recognized in each other the potential for greatness, not in the conventional sense, but within the shadowy world of organized crime. Siegel and Lansky's early ventures into the underworld were relatively small-scale, involving petty theft, extortion, and the occasional act of violence. However, their natural charisma, strategic thinking, and willingness to take risks soon caught the attention of established mob figures who saw in them the makings of future leaders. As prohibition took hold in the 1920s, the opportunities for profit in the illicit liquor trade were vast, and Siegel and Lansky were quick to capitalize on this lucrative new frontier. Under the tutelage of seasoned gangsters, Siegel and Lansky honed their skills in the art of bootlegging, bribery, and intimidation. Siegel, in particular, demonstrated a ruthless streak that set him apart from his peers, earning him a reputation for being both charismatic and merciless. His ability to charm his way into the good graces of high-profile individuals, coupled with his willingness to resort to violence when necessary, made him a valuable asset to the growing criminal empire. As Siegel's reputation within the underworld grew, so too did his ambition. He no longer sought to be merely a foot soldier in the mob's operations. Instead, he had his sights set on becoming a kingpin in his own right. With Lansky as his trusted confidant and partner, Siegel began to carve out his own territory, expanding his criminal enterprises and forging alliances with other powerful figures in the New York crime syndicate. The partnership between Siegel and Lansky was a formidable one, with each man bringing unique skills and strengths to the table. Lansky, the more cerebral of the two, was adept at strategy and financial management, while Siegel excelled at the more violent and public-facing aspects of their operations. Together, they navigated the treacherous waters of the Prohibition era, building a vast criminal empire that spanned the East Coast and beyond. As Siegel's power and influence grew, so too did his appetite for the finer things in life. He began to cultivate relationships with Hollywood celebrities and industry insiders, using his criminal connections to gain access to the glitz and glamour of the film world. This dual existence, as a ruthless mobster and an aspiring Hollywood player, would become a defining characteristic of Siegel's life, further blurring the line between his criminal ambitions and his pursuit of legitimate success. The early chapters of Bugsy Siegel's life set the stage for the dramatic events that would unfold in the years to come. From his humble beginnings in the tenements of Brooklyn to his rapid ascent within the criminal underworld, Siegel's story was one of daring, ambition, and a relentless drive to carve out his own place in the American landscape. As the Prohibition era gave way to new opportunities in the burgeoning city of Las Vegas, Siegel's vision for the future would collide with the harsh realities of the mob's interests, setting the stage for a downfall that would cement his legacy as one of the most enigmatic and captivating figures in the annals of American organized crime. Chapter 2: Hollywood Dreams and Criminal Schemes. Bugsy Siegel's move to Los Angeles in the early 1930s marked a pivotal turning point in his life. Leaving behind the gritty streets of Brooklyn, he set his sights on the glittering lights of Hollywood, determined to carve out a new path for himself beyond the confines of the criminal underworld. Siegel's arrival in the City of Angels coincided with the rise of the golden age of Hollywood, a time when the film industry was at the peak of its power and influence. Drawn by the promise of fame and fortune, Siegel quickly set about cultivating relationships with the city's elite, from celebrated actors and actresses to powerful studio executives. Using his natural charisma and the fear instilled by his ruthless reputation, Siegel managed to infiltrate the upper echelons of Hollywood society. He attended glamorous parties, rubbed elbows with the industry's movers and shakers, and even secured a few minor acting roles, determined to shed his image as a mere gangster. However, Siegel's Hollywood dreams were inextricably linked to his criminal schemes. While he may have aspired to the silver screen, his primary focus remained firmly rooted in the expansion of his underworld empire. Siegel continued to oversee his various illicit operations, including lucrative bootlegging and gambling ventures, all the while maintaining a delicate balancing act between his two worlds. The duality of Siegel's life during this period is vividly captured in the recollections of those who knew him. Bugsy was the ultimate chameleon, recalled one former associate. One minute, he'd be schmoozing with the stars. The next, he'd be barking orders to his lieutenants, orchestrating some high-stakes criminal enterprise. Siegel's Hollywood connections proved invaluable in furthering his criminal ambitions. Through his relationships with influential figures, he was able to secure protection from law enforcement, obtain inside information, and even launder the proceeds of his illicit activities. The blurred lines between Tinseltown and the underworld became a defining characteristic of Siegel's modus operandi. One of Siegel's most notable Hollywood ventures was his involvement in the production of a film titled Flamingo. While the project was ostensibly a legitimate endeavor, Siegel's true motivation was to use it as a cover for his growing casino interests in Las Vegas. By leveraging his connections in the film industry, he was able to funnel mob money into the development of what would become the infamous Flamingo Hotel and Casino. As Siegel's dual lives continued to intertwine, the tension between his Hollywood aspirations and his criminal responsibilities began to mount. He found himself increasingly torn between the allure of fame and the demands of his mob associates, who grew increasingly impatient with his lavish spending and unpredictable behavior. Siegel's Hollywood connections also brought him into contact with a new breed of criminal, the Hollywoodland Gangsters, as they were known. These were individuals who had capitalized on the film industry's thirst for authenticity, offering their services as technical advisors or consultants on crime-related projects. Siegel's relationships with these figures further blurred the lines between the legitimate and illegitimate worlds he inhabited. Despite his best efforts to maintain a veneer of respectability, Siegel's criminal past continued to haunt him. High-profile incidents, such as his involvement in the notorious Murder Inc. syndicate, threatened to derail his Hollywood ambitions and expose the true nature of his activities. As the pressure mounted and the stakes grew ever higher, Siegel found himself increasingly isolated, his loyalties divided between the lure of Tinseltown and the demands of his mob associates. The stage was set for a dramatic reckoning, one that would ultimately shape the course of his life and legacy. Chapter 3. The Lansky Connection. The partnership between Benjamin Bugsy Siegel and Lansky was the foundation upon which their criminal empire was built. These two men, born just a year apart in the Jewish slums of New York City, would forge an alliance that would reshape the landscape of organized crime in America. Siegel and Lansky first crossed paths as teenagers, both drawn to the allure of the underworld and its promise of power and wealth. While Siegel was the more impulsive and violent of the two, Lansky possessed a keen intellect and a methodical approach to their criminal ventures. Together, they complemented each other perfectly, with Lansky providing the strategic vision and Siegel serving as the ruthless enforcer. As Prohibition took hold in the 1920s, the opportunities for illicit profits grew exponentially. Siegel and Lansky quickly established themselves as key players in the bootlegging business, using their connections and ruthlessness to outmaneuver rival gangs. Their success in this endeavor laid the groundwork for their future expansion into other criminal enterprises. Bugsy and Maya, they were like two sides of the same coin, recalled Frank Costello, a prominent mob figure who had dealings with the pair. Siegel was the brawn, the muscle, the one who would do whatever it took to get the job done. Lansky, he was the brains, the one who could see the bigger picture and figure out the best way to make a profit. Their partnership extended beyond the criminal underworld, as the two men also developed a close personal relationship. They would often be seen together, dining at the finest restaurants and attending high-profile events in New York and Los Angeles. This public display of their alliance only served to heighten their reputation and strike fear into the hearts of their rivals. As their criminal empire grew, Siegel and Lansky began to diversify their investments, branching out into legitimate businesses and real estate ventures. Lansky's financial acumen proved invaluable in these endeavors, as he meticulously managed the books and ensured that their illicit profits were effectively laundered. One of their most ambitious projects was the establishment of the Trans-America Corporation, a holding company that served as a front for their various criminal and legitimate enterprises. Through this entity, Siegel and Lansky were able to consolidate their power and expand their reach, solidifying their position as two of the most influential figures in the world of organized crime. However, the strain of maintaining such a vast and complex criminal network began to take its toll on the partnership. Siegel's growing ambition and reckless behavior began to clash with Lansky's more cautious and calculated approach. Tensions mounted as Siegel's Hollywood aspirations and his obsession with developing a casino in Las Vegas threatened to jeopardize their carefully constructed empire. Bugsy was always pushing the envelope, always trying to take things to the next level, said Lansky in a rare interview. I tried to rein him in, to keep him focused on the bigger picture, but sometimes he just wouldn't listen. That's when the problems started to arise. Despite these growing tensions, Siegel and Lansky remained outwardly united, presenting a united front to their rivals and the authorities. Their alliance was the glue that held their criminal empire together, and both men recognized the importance of maintaining that facade of unity. As the 1940s drew to a close, the partnership between Siegel and Lansky would be put to the ultimate test. The fate of their empire and their very lives would hang in the balance as the two men navigated the treacherous waters of the criminal underworld. Chapter 4: Vegas Visions, the Flamingo Hotel. As Benjamin Bugsy Siegel's criminal empire expanded and his reputation grew, he began to set his sights on a new venture that would forever change the landscape of the American West. While his exploits in Hollywood and his alliance with Lansky had solidified his status as a rising star in the underworld, Siegel's ambitions extended far beyond the glitz of the silver screen and the shadowy dealings of the mob. It was in the desert oasis of Las Vegas that Siegel saw the opportunity to fulfill his grandiose dreams and cement his legacy as more than just another ruthless gangster. The city, then little more than a dusty outpost in the Nevada wilderness, was on the cusp of transformation, and Siegel was determined to be at the forefront of its development. Siegel's introduction to Las Vegas came in the early 1940s, when he and Lansky began exploring the potential of the remote gambling town as a lucrative hub for their criminal enterprises. The pair recognized that the city's isolation and lax law enforcement presented an ideal environment for their illicit operations, from money laundering to high-stakes gambling. But Siegel's vision extended far beyond these traditional mob activities. Bugsy saw Las Vegas as a blank canvas, a place where he could build something truly spectacular, recalled Lansky in a rare interview years later. He had this grand idea of turning it into an entertainment destination, a place where the American dream could be realized through his own brand of ambition and innovation. Siegel's first step in realizing this vision was the acquisition of a plot of land on the city's outskirts, where he planned to construct a lavish hotel and casino complex unlike anything the region had ever seen. Dubbed the Flamingo, Siegel's project was to be a testament to his boundless imagination and his willingness to defy the conventions of the criminal underworld. Bankrolled by a consortium of mob bosses and associates, Siegel set about assembling a team of architects, designers, and construction workers to bring his dream to life. However, the Flamingo's development would prove to be a tumultuous and arduous process, beset by a series of challenges that would ultimately test the limits of Siegel's charm and cunning. From the outset, The project was plagued by budget overruns and construction delays, much to the growing frustration of Siegel's impatient mob investors. The costs of materials and labor continued to spiral, and Siegel's insistence on lavish, extravagant features only added to the financial strain. As the months passed, and the Flamingo's opening date was repeatedly pushed back, the patience of Siegel's criminal partners began to wear thin. Bugsy was like a child with a new toy, remarked one of the project's managers, who spoke on the condition of anonymity. He wanted everything to be perfect, no matter the cost. And the bosses back east, they just wanted to see a return on their investment. It was a recipe for disaster. The tension came to a head in the final weeks before the Flamingo's grand opening, as Siegel struggled to secure the necessary funding to complete the project. Desperate to impress his mob backers and prove the viability of his vision, he resorted to drastic measures, siphoning funds from other criminal enterprises and even strong-arming local officials to secure additional resources. The Flamingo's opening night on December 26, 1946, was a chaotic and disastrous affair. The hotel and casino were far from complete, with unfinished construction, malfunctioning equipment, and a general air of disorganization that belied Siegel's ambitious plans. Guests were underwhelmed, and the event was marred by reports of financial irregularities and rumors of Siegel's misuse of funds. In the aftermath of the Flamingo's disastrous debut, Siegel found himself in an increasingly precarious position. His mob associates, already frustrated by the project's ballooning costs and delays, were now openly questioning his competence and loyalty. Siegel's desperate attempts to salvage the Flamingo's fortunes only served to deepen the suspicions of his criminal partners, who began to see him as a liability rather than an asset. As the Flamingo struggled to find its footing, Siegel's personal life also descended into turmoil. His long-standing relationship with his mistress, Virginia Hill, had become a source of constant tension, and his paranoia about potential threats to his empire only grew. The once charming and charismatic Siegel was now a man on the edge, his grand visions for Las Vegas threatened by the very forces he had sought to control. In the months that followed, Siegel would find himself caught in a web of his own making, as the Flamingo's troubles and his own personal demons converged to bring about his downfall. The stage was set for a dramatic confrontation that would ultimately seal Bugsy Siegel's fate and cement his legacy as both a visionary and a cautionary tale in the annals of American organized crime. Chapter 5. The Fall of a Kingpin. The Flamingo Hotel's opening night disaster had left Bugsy Siegel reeling, but he was determined to turn the casino's fortunes around. However, the mounting pressure from his mob associates, who were growing increasingly impatient with the project's financial woes, was taking a heavy toll. As construction costs spiraled out of control and the casino struggled to attract enough high-rolling gamblers, Siegel found himself in a precarious position. His once grand vision for Las Vegas was now mired in debt and scrutiny from his criminal partners who had invested heavily in the venture. Siegel's relationship with Lansky, his longtime friend and criminal confidant, had become increasingly strained. Lansky had been a steadfast ally, helping to shield Siegel from his rivals and provide resources for his ambitious plans. But as the Flamingo's troubles deepened, Lansky's patience began to wear thin. Bugsy was getting in over his head, Lansky later recounted. We had a lot riding on that casino, and the money just wasn't coming in. I tried to reason with him, but he was too caught up in his own dreams to see the reality of the situation. Siegel's personal life was also in turmoil. His marriage to Esther Krakauer had become increasingly tumultuous, and he had taken up with a new love interest, Virginia Hill, a glamorous Hollywood starlet with ties to the mob. The constant strain of juggling his criminal enterprises, his romantic entanglements, and the Flamingo's financial woes had taken a heavy toll on Siegel's mental state. He was always looking over his shoulder, jumping at every sound, recalled one of Siegel's associates. The paranoia was eating him alive. I think he knew the end was coming, but he was too proud to admit it. As the summer of 1947 approached, the pressure on Siegel reached a boiling point. The mob bosses, including Lucky Luciano and Meyer Lansky, had grown tired of Siegel's excuses and were demanding a reckoning. Siegel's fate was sealed when they decided that he had become a liability and needed to be eliminated. The fateful night of June 20th, 1947, marked the end of Bugsy Siegel's reign. As he sat in the living room of Virginia Hill's Beverly Hills home, reading the newspaper, a hail of gunfire shattered the silence. Siegel was struck multiple times, his body crumpling to the floor in a pool of blood. The immediate aftermath of Siegel's assassination was a whirlwind of chaos and speculation. The murder made headlines across the country, and the public was captivated by the grisly details of the crime. Theories and rumors swirled about who was responsible and why. Some believed that Siegel's own criminal partners had orchestrated the hit, tired of his lavish spending and failure to deliver a profitable casino. Others speculated that it was the work of rivals from the East Coast who had grown weary of Siegel's ambitions and influence. The truth, however, remained elusive. In the days and weeks that followed, the Flamingo Hotel was quickly taken over by Siegel's former associates, who sought to salvage what they could from the troubled venture. The casino's future, once so brightly envisioned by Siegel, now hung in the balance. As the dust settled, the legacy of Bugsy Siegel began to take shape. His death had been a shocking and dramatic end to a life marked by both daring criminal exploits and grand entrepreneurial visions. The myth of Bugsy Siegel, the charming gangster with a penchant for the high life, had been cemented in the public consciousness. Yet beneath the sensationalized accounts and romanticized portrayals, the true complexity of Siegel's character and the forces that shaped his downfall remained largely obscured. The paradox of his life, a ruthless criminal with a dream of legitimacy, would continue to captivate and confound those who sought to unravel the Bugsy Siegel enigma. Chapter 6: Mythmaking and Legacy. The indelible mark that Benjamin Bugsy Siegel left on American culture was perhaps even more profound than his impact on the criminal underworld or the development of Las Vegas. In the decades following his brutal murder in 1947, Siegel's life and death became the subject of intense public fascination, spawning a legacy that continues to captivate audiences to this day. The media frenzy that erupted in the wake of Siegel's assassination was unprecedented. Newspapers across the country sensationalized the details of the hit, speculating about the motives and perpetrators behind the crime. Lurid headlines and dramatic reenactments painted a vivid picture of Siegel's final moments, stoking the public's morbid curiosity. Bugsy Siegel, notorious gangster, slain in California home, read the front-page banner of the New York Times on June 23, 1947. The article delved into the grisly specifics of the murder, describing how Siegel had been shot multiple times while relaxing in the Beverly Hills home of his lover, Virginia Hill. The report highlighted Siegel's reputation for violence and his suspected involvement in a string of high-profile crimes, further cementing his image as a ruthless criminal. Beyond the sensationalized news coverage, Siegel's life and death quickly became the subject of countless books, films, and television shows. Biographers and true crime authors rushed to document his rise and fall, each offering their own interpretation of the complex and contradictory man. From Meyer Lansky's authorized account to more speculative works, these narratives helped to solidify Siegel's status as a legendary figure in the annals of American organized crime. Perhaps the most enduring cultural legacy of Bugsy Siegel came through his portrayal on the silver screen. Actors like Warren Beatty, Harvey Keitel, and Michael Madsen have all embodied the charismatic gangster in various film adaptations, each offering a unique perspective on his life and character. These cinematic depictions, while often dramatized for entertainment value, have played a significant role in shaping public perception of Siegel and the broader gangster mythos. One of the most acclaimed and influential portrayals of Siegel came in the 1991 film Bugsy, directed by Barry Levinson and starring Warren Beatty in the title role. The movie delved into Siegel's Hollywood ambitions and his pivotal role in the development of Las Vegas, presenting a nuanced and humanizing take on the notorious mobster. Beatty's performance captured Siegel's duality, showcasing his charm and vision alongside his ruthless and violent tendencies. The success of Bugsy and other similar films has helped to cement Siegel's status as a cultural icon, transcending his historical significance as a criminal figure. In the public imagination, Siegel has become a symbol of the American dream gone awry, a man who pursued his ambitions with unbridled passion, only to meet a violent and untimely end. This mythologization of Siegel's life and legacy has also had a profound impact on the development and reputation of Las Vegas. The city that Siegel envisioned as a glittering oasis of entertainment and vice has become inextricably linked to his name, with the Flamingo Hotel serving as a tangible reminder of his influence. Visitors to Las Vegas today can still find echoes of Siegel's vision in the opulent casinos and lavish shows that have come to define the city. Moreover, Siegel's role in the expansion of organized crime in America has had a lasting impact on the public's perception of the underworld. His ability to navigate the blurred lines between legitimate business and criminal enterprise has become a hallmark of the gangster archetype, informing the way we understand the complex relationship between power, wealth, and violence in American society. As the decades have passed, the fascination with Bugsy Siegel's life and death has only grown stronger. His story has become a touchstone for discussions about the duality of human nature, the pursuit of the American dream, and the enduring appeal of the gangster narrative. In the end, Siegel's legacy transcends the specifics of his criminal exploits, serving as a powerful symbol of the paradoxes that have long defined the American experience. In the concluding chapter of this narrative, we will delve deeper into the complex legacy of Bugsy Siegel, examining how his life and death have been interpreted and reinterpreted through the lens of modern scholarship and cultural analysis. By unraveling the myths and misconceptions that have surrounded this enigmatic figure, we will gain a more nuanced understanding of the man behind the legend and the lasting impact he has had on American society. Chapter 7. Unraveling the Paradox. As the decades passed since Bugsy Siegel's untimely demise, the public's fascination with his life and legacy only continued to grow. The myths and legends surrounding the notorious mobster had taken on a life of their own, obscuring the complexities and contradictions that defined his very existence. Yet, in the modern era, with the benefit of hindsight and a more critical examination of history, the true nature of Siegel's paradoxical character could finally be unraveled. Historians and cultural critics alike have revisited Siegel's life through a fresh lens, challenging the romanticized notions that had long defined the popular perception of gangsters in American society. Gone were the days of glorifying the outlaw lifestyle. Instead, a more nuanced understanding of Siegel's motivations, relationships, and ultimate downfall emerged, shedding light on the duality that lay at the heart of his story. At the core of this re-examination was the recognition of Siegel's unwavering pursuit of the American dream, a dream that, for him, had become inextricably linked with the allure of the criminal underworld. Raised in the harsh realities of Brooklyn's immigrant neighborhoods, Siegel had seen firsthand the potential for wealth, power, and status that could be attained through illicit means. Yet, his ambitions extended far beyond the confines of the mob, as evidenced by his Hollywood aspirations and his visionary plans for Las Vegas. Bugsy Siegel was a man of contradictions, a living embodiment of the paradox that has long defined the American experience, observed renowned historian Dr. Elise Goldstein. On one hand, he was a ruthless, calculating criminal who had no qualms about using violence to achieve his goals. But on the other, he possessed a remarkable entrepreneurial spirit and a vision for creating something truly grand, a Las Vegas that would capture the imagination of the world. This duality was a central theme that scholars grappled with when examining Siegel's life and legacy. The man who had once been a cold-blooded killer was also the driving force behind the transformation of a sleepy desert town into a glittering oasis of entertainment and excess. It was this complex interplay between Siegel's criminal impulses and his legitimate business ventures that captivated the public's imagination, blurring the lines between infamy and fame. Bugsy Siegel was a product of his time, a reflection of the tensions and contradictions that defined American society in the early 20th century, said Dr. Goldstein. He embodied the allure of the American dream, but his pursuit of that dream was inextricably linked to the ruthless world of organized crime. This paradox is what makes his story so enduringly fascinating. The debate surrounding Siegel's true character has raged on, with some scholars arguing that he was a complex individual whose motivations were not as black and white as they had often been portrayed. They pointed to the personal relationships and family dynamics that shaped his life, suggesting that there were moments of genuine humanity and vulnerability beneath the veneer of his criminal persona. Siegel was not simply a one-dimensional villain, explained Dr. Goldstein. He was a son, a husband, and a father, a man who, despite his involvement in the mob, cared deeply for his loved ones. These aspects of his life have often been overlooked in the rush to mythologize him as a ruthless gangster. Indeed, the examination of Siegel's personal relationships revealed a more nuanced understanding of his character. His tumultuous marriage to Esther Krakauer, his close bond with his mother, and his complex dynamic with Maya Lansky all provided insights into the human side of a man often reduced to a caricature of a mobster. Siegel's relationship with Lansky was particularly fascinating, noted Dr. Goldstein. They were business partners, yes, but they were also lifelong friends who had grown up together in the slums of Brooklyn. Their alliance was built on a foundation of trust and mutual respect, even as they navigated the treacherous waters of the criminal underworld. As the scholarly discourse on Siegel's life continued to evolve, the enduring fascination with his legacy also came under scrutiny. The romanticization of gangster culture, a phenomenon that had its roots in the Prohibition era and the rise of organized crime, had long shaped the public's perception of figures like Siegel. But in the modern era, there was a growing recognition of the need to critically examine the underlying societal factors that had contributed to the mythologization of these individuals. The Bugsy Siegel myth is a reflection of our own cultural obsession with the idea of the American dream and the lengths to which some will go to achieve it, said Dr. Goldstein. His story touches on themes of ambition, greed, and the blurred lines between celebrity and criminality, all of which continue to resonate with contemporary audiences. Yet, as the myth-making surrounding Siegel's life was unraveled, the true impact of his legacy became clearer. His influence on the development of Las Vegas, his connections to the Hollywood elite, and his enduring impact on the structure of organized crime in America all contributed to a more nuanced understanding of his place in history. In the end, the paradox of Bugsy Siegel's life and legacy remained a testament to the complexities of the human experience. He was a man who had straddled the worlds of legitimate entrepreneurship and ruthless criminality, leaving an indelible mark on American culture. By confronting the contradictions that defined his existence, scholars and the public alike could gain a deeper appreciation for the forces that shaped the nation's history and the enduring fascination with the intersection of crime, ambition, and fame. As we conclude this fascinating journey through the paradoxical life of Bugsy Siegel, I hope you've gained a deeper appreciation for the complexities of his legacy. If you've enjoyed this exploration of crime, ambition, and the American dream, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more captivating historical narratives. To stay updated on our latest videos, be sure to click the bell icon. And if you know someone who'd be intrigued by Siegel's story, why not share this video with them? Your support helps us continue bringing these compelling tales to life. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, history is full of paradoxes waiting to be unraveled. Thanks for watching!